Hey everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Spiritual Simple. We are doing part 2 with my sister, Kimberly Palm, and we're going to be talking about her new book, Walking with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and how she has directly gotten her information from Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, not only from the times that she walked with them in another lifetime, but as she is in this lifetime, and how she has been instructed on what information to share, which is just a story of information that you all can just listen to. And, you may find it, number one, very inspiring because it's not so indoctrinated and it wasn't put on you by someone else. You may find that it resonates extremely well with your heart chords. I know I did. So welcome back, Kimberly. Good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you too.
So we're going to get into a little of the Q&A because the first part, if you haven't seen the first part, you guys, go back and see the first part, download the book, read it. And then, of course, you can always message Kimberly directly with more Q&A.
Absolutely.
And we'll do more shows as well, as we're just getting information out that maybe isn't exactly the way you were programmed that it was. So we touched base on, the Immaculate Conception and what Kimberly was given the information on that, which resonates well with me. We talked about King James and how he's changed the Bible and how every king and queen has done something to revise the Bible. It's almost like their rite of passage. When they put the crown on, take their throne, they go in and they change something because it helps them have more power and control and enslavement. So we've gone over some of those things in part 1. So please go back and take a look at that, like, subscribe, and share. And so now we're going to go on to a little bit of Q&A. And I know for me reading the book, we did talk a little bit about in part 1 that Yeshua went on many travels to study with many masters in many countries, which was what his destiny was, to expand his
to learn everything.
Learning.
He was a master of everything.
Yes, and then to come back out at the age of supposedly 30 and begin to travel. So let's maybe fast forward to the time that he came out, started going around with all of that, his relationship with Mary Magdalene, which is, let's just put everything that we've learned before this out there somewhere. Let's come to the platform here and just listen to the information that Kimberly wants to share, that she's had a direct messaging from Yeshua regarding this, and then her memories from living in that lifetime. So Kimberly, please, let's talk about where we are at 30 or around that time when he comes out into the masses and begins to heal, or that it's written about at that time, because he did a lot of healing before that.
Yeah. So he was in his early 30s when he started actually teaching. He was like 32 or 33. It's in the book. I don't remember. I'm horrible with numbers. Okay. I'm a right brainer, so numbers, but he was in his early 30s when he actually started preaching and teaching and doing all that. And when they put him up on the cross, he was actually 39 years old when he was put up on the cross. But he started doing his preaching and teaching when he was in his early 30s. That's when he put together all of the apostles. And he didn't have 12. He had 15 male apostles and 5 female apostles that were high level. And Mary Magdalene was his chief apostle. She was actually like the head of all the apostles because she is his twin flame. Okay. They are married. They actually got married. And I give her whole story in the book. I'm not going to go into it in this video. If you want to know her story, you can find out who she was, where she came from, who her people are, why they, how they met, they got married, where they got married, they had to hide their marriage because they would have crucified her too. So they kept it a secret. It was kept a secret. No, she was not a prostitute, never ever was a prostitute. She was actually extremely wealthy, and she was actually a noblewoman. She was what they call a noble born woman back then. And she was an Essene. And so I go into who she was, where she came from, all that, in there. But he started teaching in his 30s, and then he traveled to a lot of places, teaching. And that is true. What isn't true is all of the people who say he didn't die on the cross. He went on to live to 100. Somebody just put a comment again on one of my, I don't know, it was a post I did, and some person puts a comment up there saying, and I don't know where they got this information from, because I know that there's people out there on YouTube spreading all kinds of lies. I mean, I've heard so many stories that are all totally not true. How do I know? Because I was physically there. I was there, not just me, but as I said in the previous video, there's hundreds of other people who are all incarnated now, who are all there together, and we're all coming together now, and we're sharing our memories, and we're able to corroborate the story pretty much, that we all saw the same thing and we all remember the same thing. And some of those people have actually read my book as well and said, yep, that's exactly how I, remember everything when I was there. So, but there's people who are spreading stories saying, oh, they ran away to Egypt and he never really died on the cross, and he had 3 children and he lived to be years old. They've also made up lies that he had other wives and other children, and no, all wrong. So the only wife he ever had, who he married quite young, he was only, I think, 18, something like that, when they were married, was Miriam of Magdala. And she wasn't of Magdala. That name was given to her later on, because that's not where she came from. Well, I talk about that in the book, where she came from, but it wasn't Magdala. They were married. They kept it a secret, because if they wouldn't have kept it a secret, they would have killed her up on a cross too, because they were doing the same kind of preaching and teaching. She was a healer too. She had supernatural powers too. She did all the same stuff he did, which is why she was the chief apostle. And Peter was really jealous of her. That guy, not a nice guy, by the way. Saint Peter, he was actually pretty evil, but he wasn't good. He was kind of an infiltrator of the group, if the way I look at it. That's what I call him, because I know who he was and what he really did, and he was a terrible person. And he actually made comments that women should all be killed off the planet, and I talk about that in the book. I actually quote right out of the Bible stuff that he said out of his mouth. He hated women, like totally hated women, and wanted Mary Magdalene dead, like tried to off her, like I don't know how many times, tried to poison her, tried to kill her, all kinds of stuff. Not a nice guy at all. And he's the one who went to create the whole Vatican. He went on to, because of him, the Vatican was created and all that. So he was not good. Anybody who thinks he's some fantastic saint and wonderful, they're kidding themselves. No, not at all. He was really super jealous of her. Actually, some of the other apostles were pretty jealous of her too, because she had the #1 position, basically. So they were very jealous. But yeah, that's what else would you like to know?
Okay,
he did,
So he traveled with his teachings. He did not die at 33. He died at 39. So at the time of his death, it was him on the cross.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone else was sort of
I was there.
hiding.
I had to watch it. I had to watch it, and it was horrible. It was horrible.
Was everyone else in hiding?
When you say everyone else,
like all of his whole group, his whole apostle group, were they more like scared to be there to watch him die? I mean,
some of them were there, some of them weren't there. They didn't really go into hiding until after he died. I mean, a lot of them were there. And then, some of them did go into hiding, but a lot of them didn't, because they wanted to go out and spread the teaching. So they kind of scattered all over the world, actually, after he ascended, because because remember that he came back in his light body. Okay. His resurrection, he wasn't resurrected in a physical body. Right. He came back in his light body. All right. Which is what we all go into when we're not in the meat suit and the human meat puppet avatar suit. We're in our light body. And so he came back in his light body, which could be like a physical body, because if you were to touch his hand, you would feel it. It would be like you can feel him and touch him and all that, because it was very material, but it wasn't a human like body, with blood and all that. It was the light body, and the light body is all energy, you know, and everything. And you can feel it, like you could hug somebody in their light body and you could feel that. But they're not in a physical form. And so, yeah, the apostles, after he ascended back to heaven, then everybody scattered to the four corners of the earth, as they say. They scattered all over.
So when they scattered, you know, the stories that we hear is they were all put to death, horrible deaths.
Not all of them, but some of them were.
Okay, yeah, so some of them were persecuted, were hunted down and persecuted, or persecuted while they were in their teaching, I assume. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, and that was because of the dissension that was created thereafter, and the stigma of him being, he wasn't a king, he wasn't this, he wasn't that, you know, those kinds of things. So we have a lot of that distorted stories that are going around. So some of them were killed off. Now, in your book, you talk about Mary Magdalene being pregnant with twins at the time. So
yeah, she was pregnant when he ascended to heaven. She was pregnant.
Right. So he never met his physical children.
Well, he did, but in his light body form. Yeah. Later when he was always with her in his, she could see him like until she passed and went to the next life. He was always with her, just, you know, in spirit form.
Yeah.
So she could always.
The story I've always heard was that she went on to France and had one daughter named Sarah. And you're saying partially she had twins. Okay.
She had twin daughters. So the first one was named Sarah and the other girl was named Zipporah, which was a Hebrew name. And that isn't anywhere on the internet that you can find. I said this in video number 1, that majority of the info I'm giving out, you're not going to find it anywhere. So don't even try. You won't find it.
Well, the internet is all distorted and how they want us to see the truth anyway. So if anyone's believing everything they're hearing on the internet, they're not getting the truth either. So you had Zipporah,
and Sarah.
And Sarah.
And I knew them and I got to see them and I got to watch them grow up and I got to actually be kind of a nanny to those kiddos. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I've had so many people like psychics and shaman, like Native American shaman, when they meet me in person, they freak out all the time and they actually think I'm her. They actually think I'm her because when they see me, they see her. I'm not her. She's not here on earth. She's not here on earth.
You carry the essence of her. And that's
I carry an essence. I call it a fractal. And I can't remember how many, I think it was like 29. There's 29 women on planet Earth who carry a fractal of her right now. Those are all women who are members of what's called the Sisterhood of the Rose. And they were trained, women who were trained by her. She had 12 actually priestesses who she trained when she was alive and walking, but there are also other women that are part of that as well, that are either related or whatever, or, you know, somehow to her. And there's 29 of us who have like a fractal of her that we're carrying. And are we her? No, but we carry that essence. And what that fractal allows us to do is communicate directly with her. So all of the other women who have it are able to hear her, see her, talk to her, and communicate with her whenever they want. Yeah. So you'll hear women who are, you know, there's certain women, there's a couple of them I'm in touch with on Facebook who they talk to her every day and have conversations. And that's because they're one of the placeholders for her here. There's 29 of us that are placeholders here on Earth. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being that placeholder, Kimberly. It's important. If people understand the energies, it's about anchoring the upper, the through, and the lower and up again. So it keeps that essence and that fractal alive. Okay, so let's talk about after death. Okay, so where does Mary Magdalene go after this? And then I want to also touch on the Cathars, if we can.
Sure. So they went to southern France. So there was 30 something people stuck in a boat, some of the apostles, their families, their children, you know, the wives, children, whatever. Her sister Martha, her brother Lazarus went on this ship and they set them out to sea, and they were basically hoping that they would all just die out at sea, because they didn't give them any food, any water, any oars for their boat, nothing. They just stuck them all on a boat and set them out to drift to die. Basically, they wanted to kill them, but that was the way they wanted to kill them. And the reason why is because if you cut someone's head off, or you hang them, or you shoot them, or you stab them, then they have an instantaneous death and there's no suffering, right? There's no suffering. It's a pretty instant death. But if you stick somebody like in a jail cell and chain them up like they did to some of the apostles and disciples, they would chain them up in a cell to starve to death, and they'd leave them there and they would suffer for a long time and die that's a horrible way to die, is all that suffering and trauma. And so that's what they were hoping for the people that they stuck on the boat, was they would all starve to death out at sea and they would die. But guess what? This guy over here was with them the whole time, his energy. And so he made sure they had sustenance and they were taken care of, and the angelic, entities were with them protecting. They were heavily protected. So they wound up on the shores of a little fishing village at the south of France. That village is now called basically in English, Saint Mary by the Sea, or the Marys by the Sea, because it's named after the two Marys who showed up there, because it was Mother Mary was on the boat with her uncle Joseph of Arimathea, and Mary Magdalene, who was pregnant, and the apostles. And, and not all the apostles, some of the apostles and their families and stuff, they were all on this boat. And of course, all of Mary's children, because Mary had 9 children. She had a lot of children. So not all of them came with, because some of them were adults and had their own lives and stayed up in the Holy Lands and went around preaching Christianity and spreading it and stuff like that. But some of her children were on the boat and came with. And so they wound up in the south of France in this little fishing village. And eventually Mother Mary and Joseph went on after that to Glastonbury. And that's where they spent the rest of their lives. And they died in Glastonbury, and they were buried in Glastonbury. So, and then of course, Miriam of Magdala gave birth to her daughters in southern France. And she finished her whole life out in southern France. She died there. They traveled all over France preaching the gospels, and they were basically the ones who inspired the Cathars. The Cathars were started in honor of Mary Magdalene. They were basically practicing the original Gnostic Christianity. They were practicing the original Gnostic Christianity, and they paid homage to Mary Magdalene, and they followed her and her teachings and all of that. And there were thousands and thousands of Cathars in southern France, many thousands of them. There were Cathar villages all over southern France. I'm actually going on a pilgrimage there soon. Mm-hmm. And the Vatican in the I want to say the 1300s, something like that, 12, 13, 1400s, Vatican and their armies went down to, they gave an order to all of these knights or whatever they were to go down and kill all the Cathars. They went down there and they burned down all the villages, and they literally slaughtered like 500,000 people or something like that. Just murdered them, women, children, killed them all, murdered them all. They wanted to eradicate all Cathars off the face of the earth, basically. And
do you think that was because of their belief system, or do you think it's because they carried the Holy Grail, which is the bloodline? Do they think that they were eliminating the bloodline?
A combination of both, actually. Thank you for asking. And I don't know that I put that in the book, but it was a combination of them wanting to eliminate the bloodline, but also because the Cathars were practicing the true Christianity that Yeshua and Mary Magdalene taught, the true stuff that they taught. And they also knew the secret that they were married and that they had children. They knew all of the truth that the Catholic Church had been hiding. They knew all the truth, just like the Knight Templars. The Vatican did the same thing to the Knight Templars. The Templars were actually protecting not only the antiquities of the religion, like of ancient Judaism, like the what do you call it? The Ark of the Covenant and all those kind of things. They were protecting all that, and the Holy Grail, the cup that Christ drank out of. They're protecting all those things. But they were also protecting the bloodline of Mary Magdalene, and the Templars paid homage. They all followed Mary Magdalene. Like she was their, like, patroness, or she was like the head of their, they all honored her. And the Vatican actually hunted down with the King of France. It was the King of France and the Vatican got together back then, and they hunted all of the Templars, and they imprisoned and then killed the leader, Jacques de Molay. They killed him. And then they killed a lot of the other Templars, and a bunch of them escaped and took the treasure, and they wound up on Oak Island, which is off of Canada. It's off of Eastern Island, of Eastern Canada, on an island. There's a TV show about this. You can watch this all on TV, everything I'm talking about. And they go over the whole history of the Cathars and the Templars, and they talk about all this on that show, actually. But a lot of the Templar treasure was buried in vaults on that island, and they're trying to like reclaim it. But it's looking like at some point after they buried it, it was dug up and it was repositioned somewhere, and nobody knows where. But they think that they had the original Bibles. They might have had original Bibles or forms of the Bibles. They think they had the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, like the cup, all that kind of stuff that they had, brought to what we call the Americas back then. And that was way before there were any Christopher Columbuses or anything, because they've lied to us about everything. They even lied to us about Thanksgiving, like how Thanksgiving was. So, I mean, the whole story, all these history stories are all lie. The whole history is a lie. So, so that is what happened. But her and her siblings stayed in southern France. They preached, they died there. Her descendants have gone on. These two will not tell me who they are, exactly how many there are, and where exactly they are. They said the closest they can tell me is there's more than 20, there's 20 plus people. They're all in Europe. None of them are in the US. I keep watching video after video and post after post of people saying that they're a descendant of them. That is bloody lies, because that person's actually opening themselves to getting murdered, because the Vatican and the Cabal have been hunting the bloodline of them for 2,000 years. And anybody who were to say that they were them, they're dead meat, man. If they really are, they're dead. They're not going to live. So they're not them. Why are they not them? Because they're not Americans, and all these people who are saying they're them are mostly all Americans, and none of them are in America. Number one. Number two, if that was really them, no, they'd be dead. In fact, the minute that the Cabal found out, or anybody found out where these people were, they'd be dead. They'd be killed. So I look at it, I'm looking at these people going, oh my God, how freaking stupid can you be, sitting there and going, I'm so-and-so, woo-hoo-hoo. That's like putting up a sign saying, come kill me now. Yeah. It's like, really? How stupid.
Well, we all, there's been more bloodshed over the power of religious truth than anything in the history of anything, actually, if you think about it. And you can't drink the blood and eat the body without glorifying it, making it be something that's okay to do, when it's really a satanic thing to do. So
we talked about that in the book.
All that,
it's all satanic.
Yeah, it's all satanic. And so much of it has been inverted and changed around that, to the point where, we're at the point now where we're able to start bringing some of this stuff up. So I'm so grateful for you to bring this information through. And it was timing. It's like you said, it was timing. I know in a regression session I had back in, I think it was October 2019, and all my big guides were there, and they were trying to say, remember who you are. And then I've always had this big thing with Yeshua about telling the truth. And he's told me that it's not my place to correct the name or anything. And so fast forward to 2019, he came through the robes of these big beings that were talking to me and said, the truth is coming. The truth is coming. And so when I said it to the practitioner, the message I got, I said, I have to laugh, because he knows what that means to me, because I've always been, the truth needs to come. And so this book and the other book that you wrote, Ascension 101, are bringing people closer. It's opening the envelope to the possibility that the stuff that you've been programmed to believe might not be true. So our archaeology, all of our stuff has been incorrect.
It's all lies.
Real history has to come out. And again, look at it as a storytelling. Storytelling used to be a very prided thing back in the day, before there was words and there was books. But you know, I just applaud you at bringing all this information out.
Thanks.
So
Well,
now
look at Tartaria. Tartaria
yeah,
was lied about, and then also the giants have been lied about, and
dinosaurs, all
the
of it.
dinosaurs are a lie.
Galactic beings being here, all lied about.
All lies. And then Antarctica, and the fact that
Yeah,
the Earth is 3 times the size of what they
yeah,
say it is, and that
yeah.
there's like 5 or more continents behind the ice wall that we are not allowed to fly over or go
Yeah.
to, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know, I was thinking too when we were doing the first video, you know, people were killed over if they would hire, kings would hire scholars to find out about the astronomy. And it used to be, no, the sun rotates around the earth. That's why I'm king, right? And so any scholar or scientist that came through this said, no, I think the earth goes around the sun, not the sun around the earth. They were put to death. I think it wasn't until later, and I don't know why Galileo is coming to my brain right now. But
I went through his museum. I went through the Galileo Galilei Museum.
I don't know if it was him or who it was.
In Florence, Italy.
Is he the one that finally, when he was, whatever it was, this person was too big to put to death?
That was Galileo.
They
actually were going to put him to death. They were going to put him to death several times.
That's why it's coming through me right now.
They wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about history, but when I was speaking that, I kept hearing Galileo, and I'm like, what? Galileo, it's an opera, it's a song. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the person that was able to convince the king that this is true, they couldn't put him to death. They had to then switch it that now the earth rotates, the sun rotates around the earth, not the other way around. So the kings fought for power for that. They fought for power over any kind of religion, which is why so much of it has been falsely created. And then to distort this story is just one of many stories that are distorted. So for you to be able to put it down and get it out there on an ebook for people to actually just listen to the possibilities and see where it resonates. You don't have to agree or disagree. You don't have to go hating on anything or throwing shade. Just read it. Just simply read it.
I don't expect you to agree or whatever. You need to make up your own mind. I mean, I just wrote my truth, my personal truth, but everybody needs to find their own truth.
Yeah. And, you know, I work with children here in the DC area. And I know one of my children, I said something like, this child had come through with some information, and once in a while it was distorted. And I knew that there was an entity there and I had to clear it. So in order to check that this child, another session, was telling me some stuff, I said, so do you know Jesus? And this kid's like, well, my guide doesn't know Jesus. So the answer was no. So then I was checking to see if there was another entity interfering. And then this child went on to say, but my other guides know. This particular guide that's with me now has not met him, but the other guide, and that's not his name. That's not his name. So then I knew I had cleared this kid, and he was getting information, because out of the mouths of babes is amazing. I love working with these kids. And I really hope that these children have a better chance of understanding the real true histories through the work of us starseeds, indigo crystal healers that have come before them, because we're the great grandmothers.
Second waivers. We're second waivers. You and I are second waivers.
Are we?
Because the first wave was Dolores Cannon's generation. So the first wave of starseed light workers would be, if they were alive now, they're in their 70s, 80s, 90s, they're older, or they're dead, they're long dead, you know, because they came in like in the early 1900s, like the early 1900s, those people.
That makes sense.
The second wave is my generation, your generation.
Yeah.
And the third wave are these kiddos, these kids.
Yeah. And these kids are coming in, and I said they're not coming in because they're smarter or better. They're coming in with less distortion. So their information is coming in more clear. And then their parents know that they're different, and they're finding people like me, finding people like you to work with, so that in their home environment, they have
work with kids too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Find people like you and me. They have a safe place that they can now explore and express, and not be suppressed for the information that they want to share. So I look forward to even their books and their stories telling us, coming off of the pioneer like yourself, who's writing things on this. So Okay, so the Cathars and all that stuff. Now, fast forward to today. How does all this play into where we are today, knowing this history?
So the thing is that he told me, he appeared to me when I wrote Ascension 101. I had been hearing about the Ascension because I'd, heard it, watched some of Dolores Cannon's videos, and I was part of the Lightworker community going all the way back to like 2009, 10. So I already knew back then, like, about Ascension, but I didn't really know why is it happening, the history of it, I didn't know any particulars. Like, I knew very little information, such a small smidgen of information. I didn't really know much. So he appeared to me in 2011 and he said, Kimberly, the world you know is about to end and I'm resurrecting a new Shambhala, which means kingdom of peace. Okay. Or heaven on earth, basically. And then he told me all of the systems have to collapse. The financial system, the medical system, the governments are all going to collapse. The school system, the food system, the pharma system, all of it's got to collapse because it's all created to enslave humans, the matrix, the whole matrix. And then he came back again another time and said, very soon there will be much more heaven on earth. So we're going through this great awakening ascension process on the earth right now, which is why I wrote a book, Ascension 101, all about that process. And why this information is important to know is because the Christian religion that exists today is going to go bye-bye, because it never was supposed to exist, because the three major religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, those three were actually created by the cabal to control people. Okay. They never should have existed. Now, spiritual practices like Buddhism's a philosophy. It's not a religion. Buddhism, even Hinduism, which, they follow all these gods and goddesses, and they do these specific like spiritual rituals that they do. It's still not an organized religion where you go to church and you pray and they take your money and all that. They don't do that in India. They don't do that in Tibet. They don't do that in these places. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, he actually came to earth. One of the reasons he came into his body in this incarnation 2000 years ago was to abolish all the religion and to bring back the law of one, which came from Atlantis and Lemuria, because the law of one is what the ETs follow out in space. There's not supposed to be a Bible. You don't need a book to tell you with 500 different stories how to be a decent human being over and over again. Because if you took the Bible and sum it into one sentence, it's don't be shitty. And that was what my best friend taught me, is that it's don't be shitty, because every story in the Bible is all about be kind, be compassionate, be loving, be forgiving, unconditional love, 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 love. If you read the New Testament, the Old Testament is all fear, 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 fear. God is going to blow you up, blow your city up, destroy your armies, make you sacrifice your child, which the unconditional loving creator, because I talk about that in Ascension 101, what God really is. The God that made your soul would never ask you to sacrifice your child, would never blow up a city, would never destroy an army, would never kill or harm anything or anyone ever. That God would never hurt it. So the Bible's got to go. It's got to go, because the Bible that they rewrote and that they did all their stuff with is just fear, 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 lies, lies, lies. And if you want to know, I even talk about in my book what parts of the Bible are actually good and that you should, because everybody's like, well, should I never read the Bible? And they're freaking out. All these people.
Well, the fact that somebody even has to ask that just tells you that their brains are hijacked.
Their brain is totally, they're hijacked. Totally...
If someone has to say, well, wait a second, if I agree with you, then does that mean I have to? It's like, if you can't make a decision for yourself, you've been hijacked.
You have to think for yourself. The fact that they're not able to think for themselves and they have to ask me, and then they freak out and they get angry. I was attacked by a lady who's a follower of mine who said, oh, I follow all your posts and I love all your posts, but you're way off base because I put a quote from the Bible where God was talking about eating, where they were talking about eating your children and stuff. And I'm like, the God I worship would not make you eat your children, and this was in the Bible. And then she's like, you're way off base and you offended me and everybody and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, if I offended you, it's because you're still in a place where you're indoctrinated, mind controlled, and you can't think for yourself. Because anybody who is totally awake and fully is able to think for themselves and is fully connected to source and is fully out of the matrix, unplugged from the matrix, would never, ever have said that to me in a million years. All the people who come after me with their little nasty comments, they're all totally plugged into the matrix still, completely brainwashed, totally brainwashed. All of these religions will be gone, completely gone by 2030. They will not exist anymore. I was assured that by my guides. Absolutely gone, 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 gone. No more religion. He came here to get rid of religion. In that time period, it was Judaism. He actually came to get rid of that religion because the Essenes weren't teaching that. They were teaching the law of one. They were teaching chakra healing. They were teaching Zoroastrian stuff, which is astrology, numerology, energy healing, all of these modern, concept, the law of one, which is don't interfere with the free will of others, be kind, be loving, be compassionate, be forgiving. The same stuff Buddha taught. Buddha and Yeshua taught literally the same information. Okay. They both came here to teach people how to be enlightened. Ascension is full enlightenment. That's what it is. Okay. Until you're enlightened, you're not ascending. All right. And ascension and enlightenment are the same thing. The same thing. All right. Yes. Except instead of dying in order to ascend, he ascended after he died. We're actually ascending in our body. And that's what he told me. He said, Kimberly, you're going to get to stay here. He said, the meek inherit the earth. He said, you will be staying here. The evil ones will be purged from the planet. And he said, all of the people who are 51% or more service to humanity will be staying here. You have to be a loving, kind, nice human being. You don't need a freaking Bible book to tell you how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, then you're not going to be here. Sorry. Somebody who already doesn't know how to be nice means that they're just not nice and they're out of here. They're not staying. Yeah. So, and I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm not judging anyone. I'm telling you the facts. These are facts. He told me, here's who's staying. Here's who's going. This is a fact. I'm not judging who those people are. Like, I'm not going to go through my neighborhood and say, you're staying, you're going, you're staying. That's not up to me. That's up to their own soul to decide if they're staying or going. I don't know who they are. I'm not going to judge. I don't judge anyone. I stay in a place of neutrality when it comes to people, because I don't have the right to judge. I don't have that right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been told since a kid it was all going to fall apart. It took me a long time, even through my 20s, when I separated from all religions, and I mean that I was indoctrinated as a child. And I used to get angry. I mean, I would get visceral responses. I couldn't look at a Bible, couldn't go into church, I couldn't listen to people quote things. And I would say that that's all ass backwards, people. You got that wrong. And the fact that you have to quote that to be a good person saddens me. But I had to get past the anger of, I can't wait for all that stuff to end. And then I'm more like, it's just going to be a natural process.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And I don't need to be angry with it. And so I had to come back into my own unconditional love self and let people find their own way and have no judgment and opinions about it. So all the stuff that you're writing about comes into where we are in the here and now, is what I'm hearing you say. How to be a nice person doesn't come from a book. It doesn't come from a book.
You shouldn't need to read that book to be a decent, kind, loving, compassionate. The 10 commandments are very important. Honor your mother and father. Only worship the prime creator. Don't worship some idol named Baal or Baal or Moloch or Baphomet or, whatever. You're supposed to worship the prime creator that made our souls. And that's who I pray to, mother, father, prime creator, who made my soul, because that is the God of everything. And so that is who Yeshua was teaching us to have a relationship with, the prime creator ourselves, not to go through a priest, not to go through a rabbi. He never wanted a Christian religion created around him. The first church was called the Way, because he was the way, the truth, and the light of the world. And it was called the Way, and everybody on earth was all supposed to learn all of the teachings that the Essenes were actually the first Christians. Everything he spread and he taught, he learned from his people, the Essenes. And all of that with the kindness and the compassion, all of that, that's what they practiced. The Essene community was the original fifth density community. They lived in 5D communities. Their communities were fully 5D, fully 5D. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very, very, very powerful. And it has to bring us forward to where we are now today. And how does it help you now today? We have so many people out here promoting this, and that, which is just implosive. It's implosive information. It's just got dynamite. It's just blowing up people's minds and physically deteriorating people because they're still looking so much outside of themselves for one truth, one way to follow, one leader, one savior. And we're in this space and place right now of evolution of the cellular body, the God source self, where we can learn that we are all embodiment of all of it, good, bad, and indifferent. And stepping forward, we have to make choices based on what our soul and our spirit housed in this physical avatar, which is the car to take everything around. How is that going to be? And so what does this information do for me that helps me right here and right now? And so reading your book can help to expand in another what's the word I want to use? Another trail off of what this is, right? Perhaps it's just another path around the mountain to get to another part of enlightenment versus what they've got you stuck on over here, because anyone that's following all this really is not getting to the top of the mountain. They're not getting to the light. That's a metaphor is what I'm saying here. I think you get what I'm saying, but I'm making sure the viewers know this is a metaphor. You've been encompassed and enslaved to think that this is the way it is. And if you step out of it, you'll lose your life. And we're innately wanting to survive. And so now we're done with all of that. We're done with all of that. Let's bring in some new information, which is truly the mystical ancient information. And then create from a blank platform from there is how my guides always show me.
Right. So let me talk about this. So basically Ascension 101 is it's called a roadmap for your soul because it's the full Ascension guidebook to how to get you through what we're going through
read.
now.
It's a great book.
And and everything in the future. It explains where are we going, where were we, the whole history, and what you should be doing now. Like I have a whole chapter on how to be happy for the rest of your life. I mean, who doesn't want to be happy? You know, everybody deserves happiness. So I have chapters in there on shadow work and on the dark side of, of the soul, the shadow work, dark side of the soul, all that kind of stuff. I have all of these, what they call dark night of the soul and then shadow work, which are two totally different things. I have chapters on that. It's basically a full-on guidebook for how to make it through the apocalypse, whatever you want to call it. But the book on Yeshua, the reason that's important is it's important for anybody who was indoctrinated into Christianity to be shown through to the light, to see this is what they told you, but this is what the real story is.
The real messages were.
The real message was, and why this all happened. So because in order to process why are we going through an ascension and all that kind of thing, you have to go back in time to see where did it all get screwed up to begin with. So people are actually learning where did it all get messed up? How did it get messed up? What did they do? What really went on? Where are we going with this? All of that. They have to go back to see that in order to fully grasp why are we in this now? Like when we move forward 2,000 years, he was the first ascension teacher. He was here teaching people how to ascend. And if people were to follow all of his teachings, and here's what's hilarious, Sandra, we didn't talk about this before, is he authored an entire book of the Bible himself. And that was removed and burned by the Vatican way in the beginning, back, 300 AD, when they had the Nicene Council. They took his book and they burned it and they got rid of it. The teachings that he has in that Holy Bible that they use today are just a tiny fragment of what he was teaching. Tiny fragment of what he was teaching. They didn't allow in the other stuff because it makes you think for yourself and be your own savior and all that kind of stuff. Because he didn't come here to save anyone. We're supposed to save ourselves.
Yeah, it was awakening to the way that you've been enslaved to believe from the governments that were currently there at the time. And it was to talk about the energies. But as you know, we've all been suppressed from all that, because if someone thought, oh, I individually have the power to control my frequencies, I individually have the power to be my own commander, well, then why would I follow a leader in a town or a village or, a whole country? I wouldn't, right?
Nope.
And then if I'm duplicated times a million people, there's nobody that could hold that power or that threat over me. And I think that's where we are now, is we're all looking at our governments. We're all looking at our church and synagogue communities. We're looking at what is actually really driving you people. And when we're in there, it's like, this doesn't drive me anymore. I want to step out of this bus and away from this. And I want to go down another branch that might show me a little more history. I remember, like you, I've always been a big follower of the esoteric and all this stuff. And I remember 20 years ago, like listening to the History Channel, and they had all these scholars, religious scholars on there. And they were saying that, like, Constantine and all these people, like, basically they described it as, well, they had a big cigar smoking party and they had like all the like thousands of books, and they went, not this one, not this one, not this one. And they basically threw them all out and then combined it. This will do. This will be our new Bible. Now we'll control the people with this. And this goes on constantly. So we already know that the truth is hidden in so many different aspects of our life. I mean, look at the fact that we're enslaved, that we have to go out and work for the money instead of looking at the gold from within us and bringing in that frequency towards us. So there's so much we can learn. There's so much people can learn from this book and learn to tune in through you and your sessions that you give. And so I just want to say it's been a true honor getting to know you over the past couple of years, and how we got drawn together in this sisterhood of bringing the light. And really bringing the light is meaning we're light bearers, but we're also taking a flashlight and saying, hey, look over here in this dark corner, because it isn't what you think it is, people. And then you may change the way you think if you can see in that dark corner, right? And so that's really what we are. We're all flashlights to shine on the deeper, darker picture of what humanity's been enslaved and indoctrinated to believe. And so this is just one aspect of what, Yeshua and Mary Magdalene were doing. And for a long time, I still can't call him Jesus. I will say Mary Magdalene, but I really want to get back to their real names. I have a, why are we calling people by different names? It doesn't make any sense. So anywho, all right. Well, any closing statements on this Q&A that you may have? Your links will be in the description. We may even go on to do a part 3 because more Q&A might come in about it. I think people just need to read Ascension 101 and then download this particular book, Walking with Yeshua Mary Magdalene. Again, you can do it where it can speak to you while you're getting dressed in the morning. And it's just interesting stuff, because you have some factual things in there that I wasn't aware of, but all was like, oh yeah, of course. Yes. Yeah. I knew that. I got it. So it was same thing with Ascension 101. I read it in like 2 days and I'm like, I already know all this. This is fantastic. It's nice to see it in paper form with words on it instead of behind someone's back. You know what I mean? Because that's how we used to have to hide the truth.
Right. Whispering in the back. Yeah.
Get my head cut off. So let's have some closing words if you have some, dear.
Yeah. Well, like I said in the last video, my other 2 books, The Real Fountain of Youth, An Intro to the Peace Stress Management System, and Ascension 101, A Roadmap for Your Soul, they're both on Amazon. And the reason why is because there's nothing in there that's going to get me in trouble. Okay. But this book could get me into trouble with a lot of indoctrinated, wacky people who just have to be hypocritical and come after you and yell at you and threaten you and all that kind of stuff. So Yeshua asked me to make it only in a PDF and only for the spiritual community, people who are awake, spiritual seekers, open-minded people, people who are nice people. And so how you get it is, Sandra is going to give you a link. You go buy it for $11. Once you pay for it, I get notification, and then I send them out within 1 to 3 days because I have to individually send them out myself. It's in a PDF form. You can read it on your computer, your cell phone, your iPad, your Kindle, wherever you want to put a document. It's just a Word document PDF, basically. And the reason I can't print it is because if I have it go into print, it will be made public, and it cannot be made public until, as Yeshua said, all of the evil, dark pieces of crud are cleared from that. He basically said until all of the darkness, the evil beings are purged from the planet, it can't be out in the public, like in a print version, but you can put it on a thumbnail drive and take it to the printer or print it out in your own house. So you can have a printed copy. I've had lots of people say, oh, I really want a printed copy. It's like, well, then really take out a thumbnail drive and stick it in your computer and take it over to a Kinko's or whatever copy place. And it's like $15 maybe to have the whole thing printed up and bound with a fancy binder on it and, you know, the whole 9 yards. But that's just the way I have to do it for now until all of the scum is cleaned away. Until
all the knife and daggers have been dismantled. And then they have told me over and over and over again that it's happening at beyond lightning speed. That, you know, they're just getting like, that's going, you're not staying, your contracts are up, get the hell out of here, kind of thing. But we still have enough here that can cause some harm if you were to publish it. So we sort of this is really about an avenue to get this information out. It's a safe avenue until more safe things are provided where it can. But, you know, here's the thing. You don't have to have something tangible in your hand to understand the language in which this is written. You can understand it from here. You know, and later, of course, if people feel like they want it in books, they can download it, and later you can get it published when you're ready. When they give you the get-go, the okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to give me the okay. Yeah, I have to wait until they basically told me to wait for them to tell me, and they will let me know when it's time to make it, you know, public. But it's probably going to be at least another year or more, because
that's no time at all.
Yeah, I mean, the time's going by really, really quick. But I'm feeling like by 2026, definitely we're going to be in a different place. And I know that people are going, 2026, oh, you know, I want it to be over with yesterday. Well, for us, it's not going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for the people who are still mind controlled. They're going to have,
they know nothing. They know nothing. We have to understand the shock factor. We need to give them some life factoring levels of information to keep them sustained, because it'll make more people want to exit this planet because they can't comprehend it.
Yeah. This year though, 2023, Sandra, I don't know about you, but I feel that more and more stuff's going to all come out and get revealed and get taken down. Really, really big. I just recently saw a video, I couldn't believe it, or a post or video where they said, oh no, it was a video. It was an interview with a pilot. And he said that all of the cabal guys that are going to Davos, you know, the Davos thing, all those cabal guys that go there every year, that they're trying to hire non-pokeyed pilots to fly them to Davos, and crew that they have a requirement that they can't beat, because they know that the ones who do have that, the plane could go right out of the sky, because the pilot,
and maybe it should go right out of the sky.
Yeah. So this kind of stuff is going to keep coming out and coming out and coming out, and eventually all of it's going to come out. But they have to do it's going to be a drip approach until what we call the flash happens. Once the flash happens, it changes the consciousness of everyone on the planet, and then everybody will know the truth, because the veil will be removed and pulled from their eyes. The dirt will be out of their eyes, basically, so they can see clearly again. And then it won't be a problem. But I don't know how soon that's going to happen. I feel like it's coming very soon, but how soon? Like a month, a week, a day. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen this evening. We don't know, but it is going to happen. And once that happens, they're not going to be able to hide anymore, because we're going to all know. Everybody's going to know.
They're not. But I always tell people, don't wait for some big giant ass flash.
Yeah, don't wait for that to happen.
There's many tidal waves of flashes happening right now. And the more you awaken to the fact that things are changing, and tune into yourself and step away from the old programming, which is the enslavement of the whole thing, and just start thinking for yourself and feeling for yourself, it will help you integrate all the newer energies that are coming in, so you won't feel like you got slapped right in the face.
Yep. Absolutely. And the thing is that more and more stuff's going to keep being revealed. We saw that Elon, has been releasing stuff on the Twitter every day. There's stuff being released, new stuff. And it's just going to keep dripping. And just keep in mind that what you're all supposed to be doing in the year 2023 is a number 7 year, which is spiritual growth and development and spiritual enlightenment. We're all supposed to be really going within this year and doing inner work like crazy. So, which is why I teach those
Evaluation.
skills. I teach meditation. I teach self-healing. I teach energy medicine. I'm doing a sound healing workshop on January 21st. It's a Saturday. It's going to be live, and people who can't be there live, it'll be recorded, but that's up on my website, spiritualgrowthjourneys.com. And people can go there and enroll. It's only $77, and they'll learn, not only will they learn all about how to use sound healing, but it's going to be an interactive workshop where they get to actually do some of the sound healing immediately. And I'm going to do a channeled from my higher self sound healing on everyone in the group. I'm going to do a total meditative sound healing on everyone who participates. But that's the kind of stuff that people need to be getting themselves involved with right now, whether it's through me and Sandra or it's through somebody else. You all need to be really doing the work on yourself, because that's what 2023 is all about, is really growing on a spiritual level. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, Kimberly, thank you. This has been fun. And everybody, the links will be in the description. And again, please like, subscribe, and share. Leave us comments. It really helps with the algorithms so that it circulates these videos for more people to be able to pick them up and see them. And it just, everything has an energetic connection. So this finger just hitting the like button is an energetic connection that you appreciate this kind of information being put out for you. And it allows us to put out more. So many blessings, Miss Kimberly, and we will see you all on the next video.
Thank you.